here's my rose for our wonderful new guest, and he's quite a scientist. He's a co-founder, well, actually an inventor. I don't want to call him inventor, but something that brain plasticity was unknown many years, but he's someone that has worked in that field. He's also the, I guess it's called Kavli Prize Laureate of Neuroscience. We'll find out more about that. And he's Chief Scientific Officer of the Posit Science. And also, he's been on PBS as a subject of brain secrets and the brain revolution. You know, we all want to know about those things. So we're so happy to have him. This is Dr. Michael Merzenich. And I have to tell you, Dr. Merzenich, that you're like the founder of what people all want to know about their brain. And with Alzheimer's and with so many other things that I guess you've been doing this for a long time. What made you so interested in the brain you have a PhD? Is that what you have?
I do, and I'm a scientist, a brain scientist, you could say, Anita. And right. And actually, you know, I'm often been called the founder or the father of neuroplasticity. But actually, there are many scientists that have contributed to this, thousands really, and that included a number of scientists on my own team, because all of this science is complex. It's all teamwork. So I get undue credit. You know, you pick out the oldest person and you give them most of the credit. That's commonly what happens. So just to know that this is actually a sort of revolution in the science itself, and many people, many scientists, many wonderful people working in the laboratory and in inventing and operating in thought have contributed to this revolution.
So tell me, though, as a kid, probably were in science fairs.
Well, I was always a kind of nerdy kid. I was always a kid that was looking for the bug, you know, that was a little different from the rest and trying to figure out how it worked. And I had the inclination, you could say, from childhood of an explorative spirit. And I had these sort of skills and abilities that supported being a scientist, you know, and not just the interest, but I was capable of being one. And then I became interested as a young man in what many of us are. I became interested in the brain, the mind, you know, how we explain ourselves, how we understand, how we operate, how it is that we can. So I was always interested as a brain scientist in trying to understand the big questions, the questions you could say that plague the philosophers. You know, where do we come from, or how do we explain how we operate the way we do? How do we explain? And I understood as a young man that the explanation lay largely within our skull, that if we understood the flesh and blood operations of our brain, we'd understand an awful lot about our true natures and an awful lot about how we can account for why we do what we do and how we humans basically can have such an incredible personal evolution within the span of our lives. And so I just became fascinated by those. Those were my big issues from the outset. And I must say, Anita, there's no better job in the world than the job I had, because I was seeking answers to questions that were at the core of what I was really interested in life as a scholar and as a scientist. So it's all been fun. And by the way, you paid for it. The citizens.
That's right. And I understand that, but you know, you have to have passion to really be good as well as smart. But let me just go back to something a minute with this.
Yeah.
I have worked with the Scripps Research out here in Jupiter, Florida. I know they have, of course, their main one is there in California.
Sure.
But I once had a speaker. I used to arrange to have speakers, and the one speaker, I don't remember his name, but he was I guess he was also a doctor as well as a PhD. And he talked about the brain. And he said, okay, now, if anybody can't handle this, get up and leave. He picked up a brain and showed it to us.
Yeah.
Now, you know, that was very unusual. None of us had ever seen a brain just in pictures.
Yeah.
It was very, very impressive.
Yeah. Right. It's amazing that this 2-pound organ can do what it can do. You know, it's really unbelievable. You know, it can store information equivalent to all of the information on the internet, this organ. It has an incredible ability to organize itself. In a sense, it creates and refines its own powers as a function of how we use it in our life. It creates a representation of the world that we live in. And it basically establishes all of our operations that allow us to thrive, to operate successfully in that world. I mean, it has an encyclopedia of information in it that's massive, that it's recorded in the permanent record. And it endows us with the capacity to continue to change, to continue to improve, to continue to advance all across the span of our life. I mean, what a gift. What a gift. It's an amazing.
And excuse me, but you know that there are monuments to many people and things, but I think we need a major monument to the brain somewhere. Is there one? Is there any one that you could point to other than, going, of course, Smithsonian and all, but have a huge monument built showing the brain? And really, because as you're talking, you would love that. Maybe that's one thing you need to work on.
That's a great idea. A little strange, but it's a great idea. Right?
A little strange. Well, I'm strange, but
we do underappreciate it greatly. If you think about it, Anita, it's just remarkable that when we think about health and medicine, that we commonly manage the health of the organs of our body, except for one. We do not routinely manage brain health. We assume that if you have a brain and you're not out of control, everything is fine in there. Of course, that's crazy. That's nutty. The reality is that there are great variations in the organic health of that organ inside us. And it's the most crucial of organs. So considerations of brain health should be central in medicine, as important as a consideration of those things that keep us alive, our heart, our lungs. Our brain is equally important, or if not more important. So, I mean, having a body without a brain in operation, is not a very useful thing. So, why we don't pay more attention to sustaining its organic health, why we don't focus more on keeping it in good, lively shape, is rather remarkable. And I think we're changing this now.
Yeah, and you talked about brain secrets. I'm going to ask you about that, but you did say something interesting. I just reviewed an author talked about cyberborgs. Cyberborgs? Yeah. I guess that was one. Yeah, and how the body wasn't working anymore, but they took the brain out and they preserved it. 10 years later, they brought it back with the new body. So, I mean, the brain is everything, but let's talk about brain secrets and also what the brain revolution is. And I'm going to have you back again. We'll never get all this in this one interview, but you're priceless. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you.
Well, sure. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this amazing organ.
Let's talk about brain secrets. What are the secrets?
Oh, well, this is a complicated list.
Okay.
but the main thing to understand, the principal thing that everyone should understand, is that your brain is continuously plastic. And that's another way of saying that it can change itself by use. And of course, the really important thing to understand is that brain plasticity is by nature bidirectional. It can go backward, you could say, it can go forward. In other words, I can engage your brain and I can quite rapidly destroy your ability to operate effectively as a human in your human abilities. I could destroy your ability to understand what I say by training you, or I could improve your ability to understand what I'm saying, even under very difficult conditions. I could turn your hand into a useless claw by training you. I could turn that around and make your hand an even more marvelous instrument in its usage that you now possess. So the processes that are involved are plastic. It's really critical that you work in your life to advance your abilities and not let them slide, not let them move in a negative or direction. Now you could say, well, why on earth would a brain do that? Why would a brain have plasticity that can advance it or degrade it? It does that because the critical thing it has to do for your survival is for you to get the basic answer right. And if it wants to operate it with more accuracy at speed in a more complicated and sophisticated way. But if you begin to make mistakes, it basically moves backward and makes things easier for you. But from the point of view of that backward movement, that's step one in the direction of losing your way. It's step one in direction of the brain developing dementia. So you don't want to go backward too far. You want to move forward. And beside, you have one life on the planet. You want to make the best of it, the most of it. And that's another way of saying that your brain actually gives you the capacity for continuous growth, because you can be better at anything that matters to you next week as opposed to now. So why wouldn't you organize your brain? Why wouldn't you organize your life to be a life of continuous growth? And if you do that, you're keeping your brain basically in a good, healthy state. So this is why I've invested so much of my time in trying to help translate this science out in the world to help people. That's what BrainHQ, that's what Posit Science is all about. It's about using strategies that actually target the processes of the brain to make them more powerful and effective with high efficiency. That's what BrainHQ is designed to do. And it's also designed, you could say, what is a healthy brain? A healthy brain is a brain that's very accurate, that's very fast, that's very good at recording information because it's processing information in a very sharp, clear form. And that's what BrainHQ is designed to do. Speed is in the processing of the brain. The brain can only be fast and accurate if it's very healthy. It has to be physically endowed in an advanced way to be healthy, to be fast. And if you just look at speed itself and look at measures of intelligence in an individual, speed accounts for about half of the difference across the human race in the variation of intelligence. Fast brains are smarter brains. You know that. You know, people that are really effective in life get the answer. You know, those are the people on Jeopardy that can answer before the older person can, unless they're taking care of their brain. And because there's no reason why your brain can't be fast too. And no reason why it can't be healthy, very healthy.
So let's talk about that. I think that's an important word, healthy. Does that mean supplements? Does that mean exercise? What is it going to be?
Yeah, well, the inclination is that, you know, what you're advised to do commonly, you say, how do I do to take care of my brain? Physically exercise. That would be like saying, well, what should I do to take care of my body? Well, exercise my brain. I mean, come on, the brain is plastic. The primary thing you should be doing to keep your brain in good shape is to exercise it, not your body, your brain. Now, there's two ways you can exercise it. One is you can operate in the world and use it. Now, if you go out in the world, Anita, and I take a walk in my neighborhood every morning, and just look at the people that walk by, and you see most people are sort of living zombies. They're not really engaged in the world. They're engaged inside. It's not that their brain is not completely offline, but it's substantially offline for much of their life. I mean, engage with the world again. Think about a world of continuous learning, of continuous change in which you're acquiring ability. I mean, there are lots of things in your life, Anita, that I know that you'd like to be better at, or you'd like to learn how to do, or like to learn how that works or this works.
True.
Or learn about this subject or that subject, and maybe do something in that domain. Maybe there are lots of things like that. Continue to grow. And whenever you engage your brain in progressive learning that matters to you, it can be almost anything. Your brain will change for the better. And actually, the machinery that supports change, which is a critical aspect of sustaining its health, you have to have a brain that can change itself in a positive direction. Okay, you're exercising it. So you want to keep that machinery in good shape. You want to be able to change your brain for the better until you pass your 100th birthday. Now, there's another thing, Anita, that's really important that people do not understand. And that is that they think of the brain and its health as being distinct from the body in its health. Well, that's true. But the brain is very powerfully influencing what's happening in the physical body. And we know this for a variety of reasons. For example, if you started life under very difficult circumstances and you had a life of big stress or fear as a young person, in high likelihood, you will not, if you have done nothing to take care of your brain because it's been wounded by that, with high likelihood, you will not reach your 70th birthday. Your lifespan will be shortened by that. Many of these individuals don't reach their 60th birthday. And that's because the brain is having a major impact on the maintenance of the health of the body, on the operations of its immune responses, on the operations of its critical organs. The brain basically is controlling hormonal systems in the body, substantially controlling from the brain, and the brain is also having a strong impact on the autonomic nervous system of the body, which is controlling how your body is regulating itself as conditions change in hour to hour, day to day, minute to minute. And if it's not in good shape, your body's not in good shape. So if you just have a lousy young life, or you have a life full of stress, full of struggles, you won't live very long. But on the other hand, if you just take from that life, you exercise your brain and you get your brain back into shape again, all of that can be turned around because it's all reversible. And not just turned around so one of the things that we've been doing in science in the last 5 or 6 years, wonderful studies being done. I might say that Posit Science is now supporting about 450 clinical trials out in the world where people are conducting controlled studies of its use to help people that variously struggle, or just to help normal people sustain or advance their abilities or their health. And so all universities, all have been one of the big subjects under study now, and there have been a number of published papers now, has documented the effects on these processes in the body that support longevity. You train the brain using in the BrainHQ, regimen, and what happens is the brain gets stronger, gets faster, gets sharper, and you have a very positive impact on the autonomic nervous system. Now it's responsive again. It's like you're young again. And now you see impacts that are clearly being expressed hormonally that were weak. Now they're stronger again. And now you see changes that almost certainly translate to improvements of the immune response to a challenge. We have some challenge. So all of this, so another aspect of this to think about, Anita, is if there are wonderful studies now underway. Great studies have been done at Northwestern University. That's one of the centers of this in Chicago. But they basically look at people that live a long life, and they look at those people and they say, well, what's their brain look like? People that are really with it, when I don't know, 95, 100 years old, they say, what are these really successful agers? What's their brain like? It turns out their brain is as bigger than the brain of an average young person. Hasn't shrunk at all.
And let me just say that, to tell you that I've become very interested in blue zones, and I'm sure you've seen all that. Yeah. The blue zones and why those people are living so long, and of course they do eat a different way, but they are all communal. There are a lot of things that. And then the other thing, as you're talking, I'm thinking about it, that National Geographic, if I read that magazine, boy, am I getting my brain exercised.
Yeah, me too. I read it regularly, actually. I really enjoy it. I really love the National Geographic History magazine. That's really a great magazine.
And I want everyone to know, this is an esteemed guest. I'm just sitting here not talking because I have nothing to say compared to what he's telling us. It's Dr. Michael Merzenich, and he's really unique. Let me say that. He's into brain power. and how do you get your brain to be the healthiest brain? And he's giving us a lot of ideas about it. And I'm sitting on the edge of my chair listening to you because I speak to a lot of scientists, but this is a fascinating subject in the way you're explaining this. So I have to assume that you expect to live to be 100, and you will, as long as you take care of yourself and you have a happy life, right?
Well, I'm just hope that my goal is to have my brain survive in good shape as long as my body. So
Right. Well,
whenever my
I
body
know,
fails me, it's not with the brain that's really struggling. That's my goal.
it's interesting because my husband passed away about 4 years ago. He was 93 and he was brilliant. And my mother died when she was 94, my grandmother 95, and they're very smart women, I must tell you. So I'm
Oh,
thinking a
well,
lot about what you're saying. I
well,
actually in 1990 wrote a book called Live to Be 100 Plus. I'm gonna have to send you that book.
yeah. Well, one of the things we know is that when you train the brain to be really fast and accurate, you engage a system in the brain that is the primary system that's controlling these brain to body effects. And so we actually see this in study after study because we're imaging the brain or recording activities in the brain. And we see this area light up that actually is controlling these brain to body. So we're pretty sure that this is going to have big impacts on longevity. Now, I might say this is still a work in progress because when you do these studies scientifically, you have to wait for people basically to reach the end of their life. And evidence grows as we're farther down this path. And we have evidence, but that evidence is this is still a work in progress. But everything indicates that it's not just about sustaining your wits about you, it's also about sustaining your health and life. And so we started early by you asking what else to do. Of course, diet matters. And of course, you want to exercise yourself physically. But what I recommend is that when you think about physical exercise, think about activities that advantage your brain. So I think there's more value, let's say, in playing, I don't know, pickleball or tennis for your brain than there is for sitting on an exercise machine.
Yes.
I mean, because then you're using your brain basically to make fast decisions and you're using it to control the body with high flexibility, or use your exercise as you move across the landscape, not just to pay attention to your movements, but also to pay attention to the world you're moving across. I take my walk every morning, and what I'm doing in my walk is I'm mastering the environment that I live in, and I'm interacting with it. I'm interacting with the people I pass. I want to be a source of positive, good spirits in the world that I live in. I want people to know that I'm a source of positive, good spirits. I'm paying attention to all of the little wonderful and the big wonderful things that are out there in the world. I'm smelling it. I'm looking at it. I'm listening to it. And when I go back and at the end of my walk with my dog, usually with my dog, I reconstruct it in my mind in detail. I'm trying to become a master of the world I live in. Now, this is a very natural human ability where we were constructed to do this. And when we do that, we exercise critical processes in the brain, which are recording information in detail. I mean, native humans were designed to be masters of the world they live in. You can go to the average person now and you can ask them, you can say, hey, Bill, tell me about exactly what's on your street. Okay, go in your mind and tell me house by house exactly what you see in your mind. And you'd be surprised how lousy the reconstruction is. And you go, go out and look now, Bill. And Bill will see all kinds of things there that he's seen every day, but never really recorded. Or you tell Bill, hey, Bill, well, go over to the next block. You've been there a lot. What's there? And if Bill was a typical modern human, he can't construct that at all. Well, he has a very faint idea about exactly what's there. Maybe it gets this house color in the corner and maybe this other tree or this, but what's really there is never really observed. He's not really engaged with the world. When you're in the world, the brain is designed for you to be mindful. It's designed for you to be connected to it. You should be.
Dr. Michael Merzenich, we are running out of time, but I will have you back. This is splendid. In fact, as you were talking, I have a dog too, and I walk my dog, and I was thinking, okay, and I watch everything. We're in a park, there are the ducks and all, but you've given us such great things to think about, and I will definitely be back in touch with you. This has been such a pleasure, and thank you for all you've done for society. I know you have a whole thing with children, and we'll get back to some of that again. Thanks again for taking your time.
Oh, it's very nice to talk with you. I'm sorry I talk so much. Next time I'll let
No,
you
you're a
talk more.
perfect guest. I love it. You're perfect because your subject is just right on, and I'm very excited to know you now. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice
So
to meet you.
we're going to say goodbye, but just stay on because then we'll talk to you right after we close this. So
Okay.
thank you, everybody. We're going to do another interview very shortly.